I have not received any blue cards. Kathy, have you received anything?
No, I have not received any public comment.
Public comment. All right, so if there's no public comment, I also have not seen any changes to the agenda. So we can skip through the changes to the agenda and go to minutes approval of April 23rd, 2020. Can I have someone move those? Annie moves, Martha seconds. I know that Martha submitted some changes to the minutes. Kathy, you have those?
Yes.
Okay, and they were not substantial changes.
No. I've already made the changes.
Great.
Thank you.
Did anybody else have any comments, questions about the minutes? All in favor of accepting those? Great, that is
Anna, you should do a roll call vote.
Roll call. Yeah, because I see Henry, so that's fine. Annie?
Lori?
Yes.
Martha?
That space bar doesn't work. Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Henry?
Yes.
All right. In the interest of time, because I do actually want to switch to giving more time to CVB and Peggy for her presentation. So I'm going to move on to committee member reports. Martha?
Thank you. I just wanted to let people know that the town of Ithaca is still considering, and seems like moving forward with the $50,000 contribution to the Community Housing Development Fund. And look, a month or so ago, they asked David and me some questions. We provided more information, and they seem to be moving forward with joining the fund. So I guess that, I think that would, I'm not sure if that goes into their budget deliberations or if that's something they would take separate action on, but looks good. Also, I should mention, and this might come up when Heather comes on, the IDA has been talking again about housing policy, and I hope that we'll have an actual draft of a policy to look at the next meeting.
Thanks, Martha. Thank you for all your work on that. It's obviously needed more now than ever. So thank you.
You're welcome, sure.
So if we don't have any other committee reports, Jason, I see is here. We'd love to hear from you, Jason.
Sure, just hold on. I'm just getting set up. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Good. I don't know that I have anything specific for this committee right now. I'd be happy to answer any questions I can about COVID or anything else.
I'm curious if you have been hearing from people who are having rent issues.
I have not. I have not heard. I'm not. I did get the question just a second ago on the municipal officials call, is if there was going to be another extension of the eviction moratorium. We have not had any specific, I don't know of any additional executive orders that would extend it further, although the governor's mentioned it, but I have not had anything else outside of that.
And I know that in the city, there's still discussion of, and this there's a group that is wants to discuss with the city the rent forgiveness. So I was curious if you had heard any.
I haven't. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. I'm certainly very worried about the situation with a lot of the renters, given that, you know, in the county we have such a large percentage of them. So any word about that from the state and keeping us up to date, I will keep looking as well. Thank you, Jason.
Yep.
So moving on, Planning and Sustainability Department report from the commissioner first, and then we have a resolution.
And Anna, you had Henry's hand up, and I had a question.
I'm not seeing those. All right. Oh, Henry. You had a
Yes, I
question
would.
for Jason?
Yeah, I wanted to talk to Jason about whether there's been any movement regarding the hotels that have not paid the occupancy tax.
Sure. We sent letters to them at the beginning of the week. And under the law, they would get assigned an interest and penalty. They have the ability to contest the interest and penalty to the county administrator. And then the county administrator has the authority to waive the interest and penalty based on whatever they contest or the circumstances. So Jonathan, Rick, and I met, and Lisa Schott, we all met to talk about it. What we agreed to do is send a letter to them and advise them that they were overdue on their payments for December through February, and that if they made the payment by June 10th, their interest and penalties would be waived. If they pay afterwards, it would not be waived. So in that instance, they were given, those letters went out on Monday, so I suspect they probably received them by now or should be receiving them today or tomorrow. Giving them ample time to pay the December through February's occupancy tax that was collected. We thought that was fair and reasonable. It's revenue that had already been collected for a pre-COVID time. Some chose not to pay it at all. Some chose to disclose it but not pay it. And some chose not to file at all. So we sent out the same letter to everyone basically saying, you need to pay your occupancy tax, and if you do it by June 10th, we'll waive the interest and penalties. And obviously then I think at the end of June is when their next March, April, May payment is due. So we'll see how that goes, and we'll address that at the end of June. But I would expect that'll be a different situation because it'll be in the middle of COVID, not a pre-COVID time. Just in terms of, I'm sorry, my reason why I think it'll be different, just the fact that there'll be less occupancy tax collected in general.
Right.
But, the circumstances still be the same. We need you to pay your occupancy tax. So.
Okay.
Martha, did you have a question?
Yeah, it's a comment about rents. There was a good story on NPR yesterday about landlords, sort of mom and pop, small landlords, sort of being squeezed by lenders. And there's been a lot of confusion about the fact that lenders are by law, by the, again, maybe it's the first CARES Act, I don't know, that they're supposed to waive, 3 months worth of mortgage payments and add those payments to the end of the mortgage term and not require 3 months, 4 months payment when, when that 3 months comes up. So that if any, and it seemed this one story they told about a landlord who didn't know that, and her bank kind of was forcing her to pay everything at once. So I'll send that around, because if there's any, it seems like that misunderstanding could really matter in a lot of individual cases. So I'll be happy to send that to the committee.
That would be great. And Jason, that actually reminds me, has there been any conversation, I've heard this in a few places, of a business hotline by the state? Has there been any emphasis or efforts for that, for businesses to connect with the state, maybe through ESD, to understand how to navigate these phases?
So the New York Forward webpage is the solve all, right? So New York Forward webpage has all the guidance for every phase, or is going to have all the guidance for a phase. It has for phase 1. We were told yesterday that phase 2 is supposed to start Friday, and that yesterday afternoon the phase 2 guidance would be up for those industries. As of 30 minutes ago, it wasn't up, and Peggy's saying no, so I have a feeling it's not up, which is frustrating and has been a point of contention that every control room has had. Yesterday was somewhat comical because amongst my colleagues, we all had text messages going around the same time of all different control rooms between the North Country, Finger Lakes, and myself going, what's going on? We're getting the same story. All right, it's supposed to open on Friday. We're supposed to get this guidance because we're getting all the questions as all you are. So that's when we did that push to the legislature, to our economic development partners, as well as the chief electeds. We, on our listserv, and said, hey, this is the guidance we're getting. We did that right in the middle of the control room. And we asked the question specifically. I asked it, are we going to open on Friday for phase 2? And the answer I got was, well, assuming nothing significant happens between now and then, yes, guidance will be out this afternoon, which was yesterday, for phase 2. Okay, that's when we decide to educate everyone, just let them know to keep their eye on it, and it hasn't happened yet. So, we've continued to stress, I think all control rooms continue to stress lead time, giving folks lead time. I personally, although I didn't say this openly, I almost would suggest they not open Friday and give people 5 or so days to prepare and do it properly. But I don't know what they're going to do now. So it would be better to have several days for these industries to prep a little bit more, although they probably have a good understanding of the guidelines of what they're going to include. But retail's part of this phase 2. That's a different twist of things. Phase 3 is going to be different. So providing ample lead time to industries to be able to ask questions and get some feedback, because that's what's going to end up happening. Is this is going to come out today. There's going to be a boatload of questions of uncertainty. We're going to have one opportunity come Friday to get to ask those questions, and then it's a lot of catch up, and then people feel rushed. Naturally businesses want to get open. They're going to make decisions that maybe aren't the best. They're going to gun deck things, and then you got to do a lot of backtrack. So right now, that's the page. ESD is really not taking the same role it did at the shutdown, where they were giving the clarity on what's an essential business and so on and so forth. It's really based off of the New York Forward website, which the guidance is good when it comes out. Like the phase 1 was, I thought, fairly thorough. It was pretty good considering it, but it's been 2 weeks now and there's no phase 2. I don't know what to say to that, unfortunately. I think, Peggy, you're probably hearing the same thing on your end. People are frustrated not getting it ahead of time, and now it's this mad dash. Everybody wants to get open. I get it. So we're going to keep an eye on it. When we find that it's going to be up on the New York Forward webpage, we'll let all our partners know again, and we'll have to do the flight of the bumblebee thing again, like we did 2 weeks ago. So that's what I have. Sorry.
No, that's fine. Is it possible? I know you're on the task force for the reopening. Is it possible just to mention that as an option is to create a hotline? Because I know even when there is the website, we all know they're hard to navigate. It's a tremendous amount of information, and so often people have nuanced questions that are just not answered, and it leads to a bit of chaos. So
I'll mention it. I don't think there's a hotline. I'll check again just to make sure, but I'll mention it.
Great, thank you.
Peggy, I don't know if you know if there's a hotline or not. I don't think there is. Yeah.
If they don't, it would be great to consider one.
I'll mention it to them.
It would save.
I can tell you right now, I don't think they're interested in doing that because I'm not want to speak on their behalf, but I can tell you they're not interested in getting those phone calls just because they're getting, that's part of this control room. I think strategy is to be the filter for that, but. The questions that come up are bizarre. They're, anywhere from can I have a drive-in religious service to something that's unique to a specific county. So, but I'll ask it for sure and see what the response is.
Great, thank you. So now moving on to the commissioner's report. I see.
And are you not able to see the hands in the participants?
Oh, I was not able to see those.
Okay.
Let me move my screen. Annie and Martha. Thank you, Martha. I'm going to refix my screen. I'm having tech difficulties. So we're just
Martha was first.
All right, Martha, go for it. And I just fixed my screen, Martha. They are now officially here. I can't wait until we can come back into a physical room together.
All right, thank you. Thanks, Annie. Anna. And Annie. Jason, are you getting it? Maybe Peggy too. Are you getting any reports of businesses having trouble enforcing masks? Now, I know we're not really into the retail phase, although obviously we've had certain retail stores open all this time. Are you getting any reports about people having trouble enforcing customers should wear masks?
Jason, if I may,
Please.
I can tell you, especially in our hospitality sector, that the challenge is the phases across the United States are not the same. So if someone is here and they're from out of state, their phase 1 does not match our phase 1. And so we have a number of businesses, and we've been trying to coach them on the proper way to respond as opposed to a get out, you're bad. Oh, in New York State, we're required to wear masks. Do you have one with you? But it does create a challenge for the business owners because they are trying to invite people to use their business and importantly, leave some cash money in their business. So to have to do the policing puts them in a very awkward position.
Thank you.
Annie?
Regarding that same topic, I thought I possibly heard Jason or Frank some last week talk about that the stores are actually going to have a little bit of policing that, as far as either signage or to say, hey, no, no shirt, no shoes, no mask, no service. Am I incorrect on that? I was kidding about the no shirt, no shoes.
No, that's the analogy I use to try to relate it to folks. Our understanding is that this is part of the reopening plans, is they've got to find an approach. And I know we've had this conversation a little bit. It's a hard conversation to have, and how do you have a respectful conversation? But it is the individual business's responsibility to ensure that their patrons as well as employees are abiding by the rules and the guidance of mask wearing when you can't maintain a 6-foot barrier or 6-foot distance, a barrier, 6-foot distance between people. How to have that respectful conversation is an important thing. And I know we briefly talked about it probably last week with the chamber and TCAD as to how those, and DIA about, people have to give some thought as to how they're going to approach those conversations.
Thank you. And then I appreciate you saying reinforcing testing when you're on meetings because, as people are saying, there's a lot of issues with people not wearing masks around the community, a huge issue of people not wearing masks. And so testing is another way, so thank you for keep pushing. If you're able to work now, or if you're an essential volunteer, then please go get tested. So thank you for keep saying that. For the CDC guidelines, I just wanted to mention, so my hairdresser, I won't call them out, but I checked on their Facebook or their web page and they say, okay, we're opening June 1st per CDC guidelines. So they need to also adhere to the New York State guidelines. And I guess they're not aware of that.
So I believe salons are part of phase 2. So
Right.
Salon versus the salon and nails versus the salon, nails, and massage has been all consuming in the weeks of discussion. I'm aware of just salons are part of phase 2. Massage is not, I believe, but I'm not the expert at this. But I understand that, yes, haircuts are going to be authorized come tomorrow.
So the guidance actually isn't out yet.
No, that's the
Yeah.
problem is that, but I can hook, we can hook you up, Annie. We can do some, we'll figure something out. But that's a part of the issue is that this guidance isn't out. It should be out today. It's supposed to be out yesterday afternoon. From our understanding, opening is on Friday, but there is nothing concrete.
Yeah. So thank you for, I know you're always getting that out because I think small businesses like this, they actually have no idea that they're supposed to adhere probably to the state guidelines. They're saying, okay, we're in phase 2. We're going to open up. Thank you.
Well, and it's hard to adhere to guidelines that don't exist. So,
Exactly.
Henry, did you have a question? I see your hand
Yes.
still up.
Yes, I do. I was wondering for Peggy and Jason whether, I know last week during the elected officials meeting, there was a concern that the information was not seeping down to all businesses. Whether you've heard anything about other businesses not hearing about these rules or these guidelines.
I mean, so that question came up, and I think my response is, particularly with the local elected officials, part of the reason of having those conversations is for them to push that information out. And they need to take that, and they can do that. They have a much, they're in tune with those members of whether it's a small community, they have the ability to push that network out. They have the ability to push this information out. I will say, I mean, most businesses that have been shut down by the state of New York are probably in tune somewhat as to when they can open. So I'm finding it hard to believe that any business that was shut down by the state of New York just has no idea what's going on and when they can reopen. I think they definitely need to be pushed in the direction of the New York Forward webpage and the guidance. They might need to know some of the steps, but I think they're somewhat in tune because they were shut down and closed by an entity other than themselves. So I think just the best way to continue to push it, the Chamber's doing a great job, TCAD is doing a great job, DIA is doing a great job. The local elected officials, when we have that call, we continue to put that information in there so they can push it out to their local businesses in their jurisdictions, whether it's T-Burg, whether it's Dryden, Lansing, so on and so forth, because they have the ability to branch out, as do all our legislators. And I just think that's the best way to push the information out.
Henry, I would agree with what Jason said. I think where the confusion is from when the governor first started announcing the phasing. He kind of said that, well, phase 1, and then in a couple of weeks, phase 2. So I think from a hopeful side, all of the businesses were like, okay, 2 weeks per phase. So that means I'll be able to open on X date. So I don't think it's a matter of ignorance. I think it's a matter of wishful thinking.
Good, thanks.
And Jason, you have a town hall this afternoon for the public, correct?
We do have a town hall at 5. We'll go over whatever we know to date. Hopefully there'll be more information and we can elaborate on it. And we'll go from there. It's been good questions we usually get, and we might get more on the fly if something just comes out in the next few hours.
Thank you. And I am not seeing any more hands raised. Hopefully you'll have more information by 5 p.m. Jason, we'll keep our fingers crossed so that people don't feel so adrift. Mm-hmm. And now we'll move to the commissioner's report. Katie.
Hi, everybody. I don't have a whole lot more to add than what was put in as the commissioner's report on packet page 12 of the agenda. But I'm happy to answer questions. The only kind of new piece of information is that along with Kathy Covert and Fernando de Aragon, we're going to be reopening our doors with the doorbell. The doors will actually be locked, but you can make appointments and come and ring the doorbell, and someone will be there to answer it starting on June 1st. So we're looking forward to dipping our toe into a little more normalcy in our work life. And we're still going to be doing quite a bit of telework and staggered shifts so that we keep our density levels low. But I'm excited to start this next phase of our operations. But I'm happy to answer any other questions, and I'm sure Megan could as well, besides the agenda items that we have on today's agenda.
I don't see any hands. I guess I would ask for, well, I see one. Henry, I'll get to you in 1 second. I had one quick question I'll finish up is when you will be transitioning back from the EOC, and I guess where the EOC is, that should have been a question also with Jason.
Yeah, we don't have well, I'll let Jason answer that. It's still running.
Transitioning back to full-time in staff in the office? Is that what you're asking? Or?
Yes.
So, I know for our office, we probably won't be back in the office. We'll have limited people back in the office June 1st. So we'll send out a notification probably Friday or this weekend of the different offices and their times. A lot of offices may be open to the staff, but not open to the public. It'll still be appointment only. They'll still try to do as many remote meetings. Some folks may still be on rotating and remote, some remote work schedule. Our office is not going to be staffed, every hour of the day, only because we have half the people on furlough, rotating schedules, and then I and Autumn rotate depending on EOC needs. So sometimes I'm up there half a day, sometimes I'm here half a day. And Amy's still up there, Dominic's still up there at the EOC. And in fact, the building itself, I think, will probably still remain closed to the public and appointment only because there isn't a lot of traffic that's been coming in. It's worked out actually fairly well, and it's addressed some security issues in our building. So we're actually possibly looking at that as a more permanent fix, similar to how the Clerkville Edge has a buzz-in. We may do something similar here, only because, we just don't get a lot of foot traffic, and anything that goes to the treasurer's office is starting to be handled through a lockbox or online, which is fine. Actually, it takes a security issue off our plate where we had the building open at times and people were coming in, using the bathrooms, using the break room. We didn't have, there was no security. So that's something we're looking at longer term. But for my office specifically, we probably won't have a consistent staff in the office towards the end of June. And, that's fine for now. We have some folks coming back from furlough June 20th. Once that happens, we'll probably have more regular coverage in the office. But then again, we don't get a lot of walk-in traffic. So.
Thank you. And Henry, then Martha.
Yes, I was wondering if you could give us an update about the CBDG funding.
Well, that's a topic of the agenda, the repurposing of that funds. And we haven't heard any more about the non-entitlement community COVID response funding. We are expecting that there will be something coming out, some guidance on that, but we haven't heard anything more about it.
Okay.
Martha?
Thanks. This is to Jason in general and both offices and planning also. For my money, I don't know why we want to put people back in an office if they don't really need to be. I don't, there's nothing different about the virus now than there was March 17th or 13th. We may be a little bit more prepared. We may be, a little bit safer, but if there's no value added, if there's no need for people to be sitting in offices, I don't know why we would do it, because there's clearly a non-zero risk just from surfaces and whatever else. So that's one thing. Really not, if people are functioning, if offices are functioning, especially where there's not a lot of foot traffic, as you said, there's really, I think, little to be gained by sending people back to offices. That's one thing. And then the other is, if the old jail becomes a kind of lock thing with buzzers, I would ask that legislators have the opportunity to either have our FOBs work, at least be part of the conversation about how we might have access independently to that building. I know the conference room. I remember the conference room. It seems like a lifetime ago, but I remember going in there when there was nowhere else quiet to work, for example, or make phone calls. So it's kind of a surge space for legislators, and I wonder if that could be considered if you go to something like a locked building on a permanent basis. So two questions.
Absolutely not. One thing we are going to do, we can talk about it. One thing we are going to do is we're going to limit the use of the conference rooms only for our 4 departments. So it limits all outside folks coming in, like public access and on those lines. Only because less people coming in is less exposure and less opportunity for exposure. So we'll start working on this over the next few weeks and make adjustments as we go through it.
I see Mike.
Well, I guess I have a question kind of for Martha. Are you suggesting ever? Like when would that end? We're getting guidance from the state as to when we can have people back in the office. Are you suggesting we kind of not do that guidance and just wait till when, I guess?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what's the value. What's the value? It's not any safer than it was. And I think we have to be honest about that. And where there is value, where there's need, where there are interactions that can't happen other ways, yeah, we take more of a risk than we did last week or the week before. But I don't see, Zoom meetings, we're getting used to them. I think there's a lot that's getting done, and I don't know that it's useful to have people have to go sit in an office when they can get as much work done in their on their kitchen tables. Is it just kind of optics weeks? Is it, I don't know. I just would question that. I want us to be really thoughtful about what's the purpose of people coming back into the office.
I'm just gonna add to that question because I think it's a really good question. Has there been any surveying of the employees themselves about where they feel they would be the most productive if they are feeling like they have limitations working from home? Have we done outreach specifically?
Individual departments are trying to figure through, working through that as to, there are some positions that need to be in contact with folks for productivity reasons, and there are some that they can, and some departments that applies better than others, so this is not an equitable share of this opportunity when it comes to remote. I think that's something people need to understand. So remote work option is really, it can be used as a tool and a benefit to provide some flexibility to the workday or the work situation for employees. It is not meant to supplement or add as a supplement to childcare or working other jobs, which I think is a misunderstanding of what remote work is really for. Remote work is really providing some flexibility, and many times in the past has been used as a reward for employees to be able to work in a different space, in a comfortable space. We've had to augment the use of remote work for this specific incident around public health need. So there's some, and we're working on the remote work policy that'll be coming forward probably in the next month or so. So there's some deviations in understanding of what remote work is for, as well as flexible work schedule. Those conversations about remote work they've been taking place all along with departments because they're applied differently, as some departments can use it and some departments can't, and some departments can use it selectively with certain positions based on their need to be physically present or not. So I think it's opened everybody's eyes as to its capability, and now we kind of have to understand where it can be maximized and where it can be used and where it unfortunately may not be able to.
Yeah, what I'm trying to say is, for example, I'll pick on planning. I don't know that there's any purpose in having people sit in an office and then requiring all this extra cleaning that's going to be required, and in order to sit and do the same work on their computers or phones that they're doing at home right now.
I think it's a fair question. It's honestly one I've struggled with as well. We don't get a lot of foot traffic coming in for long-range planning advice. It's something that's usually a scheduled meeting, which we're doing via Zoom anyway, or an appointment, which you could do via Zoom. So I agree, Martha. I'm struggling with this as to the purpose of it. I think part of it is just to bring back some normalcy is what I think is part of the driving factor of it. How we were going to do it is just have each staff person who doesn't have some other underlying health concern and is able to come into the office twice a week and work remotely the rest of the time. But mostly it's going to be one person at the office so they can answer the doorbell if someone rings the doorbell. So it's worth a conversation. I think you're right about that.
Yeah, I really don't want to just knee jerk say, oh, great, we can reopen. Like, why? A bit. So, thanks.
Anne?
Thank you, Anna. And so I guess as far as this same conversation, as far as in the WDIC committee, we've as most folks know, over the last many years, DSS has been working on people working at home as much as possible, and they have a whole protocol. They have forms for them to fill out. They have evaluations already set up. So I don't know if that's something that could be useful if we are evaluating setting it up or seeing if it's working out okay, because they found some people who thought that they were all going to be set up and was going to be easy to work at home. It actually it wasn't. It was too distracting, various reasons.
I would just add, this isn't really a question, but just a thought, planting a seed. Childcare is also a concern for me for a lot of families because particularly over the summer, I think all the camps have been closed. I don't think there may be one or two that haven't announced yet. So I know that there are a lot of families that are without options right now for childcare. And I'm just planting the seed that might not be a bad idea to have an employee survey go out where we ask questions about what their barriers to coming back would be, what support they might need, whether or not they have childcare, just so we get a sense of across our staff.
So we have, I mean, this is all part of the recent past 2-week discussion about childcare needs and return to work options. So there are some employees that have exercised their right under FMLA due to the expanded coverage of FMLA now that covers childcare needs, that have decided that they'll use that benefit because they have specific childcare needs. So we've worked through maybe, I don't know, 4 or 5 situations where employees have exercised that right to that benefit to be able to utilize that because they have specific childcare needs, generally to the end of June. The other thing that we've also worked with them on is you know, if they would rather be voluntarily furloughed to the end of July, it may provide them with the same benefit without using the FML leave. So FML leave was expanded recently with the CARES Act, so staff have that opportunity. And then flexible work schedules are also being worked out in certain circumstances where people can work around childcare needs, and it's an option to be considered. So, you know, a lot of those tactics have been, you know, looked into by departments and are being employed as we start with our partial reopening June 1st, and then more of a full reopening in the upcoming week.
I see that Annie, Martha has a question, then Annie, and then I have Mike.
Yeah, I just, my question is not about childcare. That's a separate issue. And I wouldn't, you know, if somebody's wants to work remotely because they have to do childcare, then I have to question it, are you working 100%? So
they're not interchangeable. Remote work is not a substitute for childcare.
oh yeah, right. That's what I'm saying.
You can take care of childcare, dependent care, and work.
Yeah, no, right.
Yeah.
And I get that.
Yeah, right.
That's me. Yeah, totally. No, my question is, assuming, you know, full-time work, et cetera, whatever the hours, it seems that just for the sake of appearing normal, you know, until there's a vaccine or treatment, it's not normal. And I don't want to add cleaning responsibilities for no good reason. I'm thinking Kathy is in that big room, but listen, she's printing out lots of stuff. She can't do that. She's printing out and mailing. There are a lot of things Kathy and Katrina and Brittany have to do in the room. I get that. Administration, Jason, you said that, you know, we're looking at locking the building and then permanently, and people have to call. I mean, I don't see why anybody has to come back to the administration floor unless I'm missing something. So
remote work is in the emergency that was implemented quickly. There are some very complex issues that come with remote work, and this is probably why, you know, this should really be happening at the GEO discussion when we bring the policy forward. Anywhere from workers' comp to workspace to liability, all has to be included if you look at a longer-term remote work policy. You know, so for example, are you liable if someone gets injured at their workspace, at their house, and how does that work? You know, how do we ensure safe? So I mean, there's a very expansive and complex series of issues that we're looking into around remote work options. Phase 1, you know, coming back to work, you know, this is different with each department. Everyone is taking it slow, and there's probably every department continues to have an element of its staff, you know, working remotely for a variety of reasons. To the extent that we can continue to ease into this, and that there's a leveling of disease management, and if it spikes up again and we have to regress, we can easily regress. So I think it's a much more comprehensive discussion about permanency when we talk about remote work, and meaning if you're really eliminating the need of county real estate. That's really what you're talking about. So I think that's a very separate discussion than a 2 or 1 day remote work schedule, which is really has a benefit to an employee as a reward and a benefit to them as to how they can work in a comfortable space. It's also not a reasonable accommodation too, depending on the circumstances. So I mean, you have to be careful not to blend other issues into what remote work is. So
I'm
gonna move us on.
I just want to ask that we really think very carefully about whether it's worth having people sit in an office and have to clean and bother with stuff when there's no value to it. That's all.
Okay, I think that's made really clear, Jason. It's a complicated issue. We don't want to conflate issues. You're going to keep us informed about all of them. You know all the various concerns. Clearly, you're on top of at least evaluating them. And if you just keep us informed, that would be great. I saw Annie's hand, but it went down, and Mike's hand. If we could keep it really short, I'd love to move on.
I'll keep it short. It's just more of a concern, really, of kind of a little bit what Martha's saying is what you're really talking about is kind of a major societal shift. And I just don't know. I don't know if that's wise, to be honest with you. By not following the state guidelines, I mean, then we'd have to open up things like people working from home. I mean, should we be paying for their internet service? But then again, I know that we like to say that this doesn't replace healthcare, or childcare, but it does in a lot of instances. If your kid is home and you're home, then you're the childcare. I mean, yes, you're working from home. And again, it would change really 9 to 5 jobs into much. I mean, I work a 9 to 5 job, but if I get a call from a client at 7 a.m., I'm working the call. And a lot of people do that, especially if you work from home. And the other two other problems, sorry. If you're younger working, face-to-face contact is important. If you're a younger worker, if you're older and you're established, yeah, you already have those relationships built. But face-to-face contact is how you build those relationships. And you can say Zoom is awesome, but it's fine. I mean, it's not, I don't think it's supplement. I mean, it's a supplement. It's not a replacement. It's how I look at it. And lastly, we're here for the public. And this has cut into public access. Whether we want to believe that or not, I don't have anybody from the public calling me up on Zoom. You know, that has to be initiated by me to make that happen. The public's not going to initiate that. Whereas, you know, if you have open offices, yes, the public can initiate a meeting much more easily than what we're doing now. So those are just some thoughts, maybe from the other side. So.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. Again, I think that the issue is that there's a lot we don't know yet. So let's just keep the conversation going. But I do want to move on to budget adjustment. I'd like to put this on the floor, and this is from the Department of Planning and Sustainability. And my brain just disappeared for a second. I'm like, DPS, everybody knows I don't like using acronyms. So this is the Budget Adjustment Community Housing Development Fund Award for West End Heights. This is ID number 9354. Can I have someone move this? Annie moves. Martha seconds. Great, it is on the floor. Megan, do you want to give us a little tiny bit about this?
Yeah, real fast. This is a low-income housing tax credit project, 60 new rental units. And although originally the legislature approved a resolution adjusting the 2019 budget, they're not able to draw until this year. So we're just simply changing 2019 to 2020. Nothing else is changing there. And if you've driven by kind of the Ithaca Bakery site on Court Street and Meadow, you'll see that they've already started grading the site, and so work is getting ready to go.
Wonderful. Does anybody have any questions? That is great news. We'll take any we can get. All right, I'm going to do a roll call. Mike?
Yes.
Annie?
Yes.
Martha?
Absolutely.
Henry?
Yes.
Wonderful. And did you, that passes. Great. Megan, did you have any, well, there's the short-term rental assistance through CDBG. It says there's a discussion. I don't know if you had anything specifically you wanted to add. And I see.
I think I'll let David kick it off, and Katie, David, and I are all here to help answer any questions and flesh that out.
Wonderful.
Hi, everyone. I also wanted to point out, oh, maybe she dropped off, that Delia Yarrow from INHS has been on the call. She looks like she got bumped off and maybe she'll come back, but she can help if we have any additional questions. There she is. I'm going to share my screen quickly. I just put together a couple slides to help keep me organized.
Am I able to? Okay, good.
All right, so we wanted to give you guys an update because we're getting very close to rolling out the rental assistance program. This is repurposing $589,222 from an existing CDBG grant. I want to make sure that we give a shout out for this to INHS. They worked really closely with us on both getting the original grant, including hiring a consultant to help write the grant and working with planning and sustainability staff. And then they've also worked really closely with us on setting up this program. So the program is to pay up to 3 months for low-income renters. They're people who have lost income due to the COVID-19 crisis. They have to be below 80% of median income. And for the first 10 days of the program, we're going to prioritize renters that are 60% of median income or below. This is only people whose rent is unaffordable based on their current income. So the rent has to be more than 30% of their monthly income in their current state. The rent goes directly to the landlord, and there's some requirements for landlords that they have to waive any fees for the months that are being paid. So for example, if we're paying 1 or 2 months back rent and there was a late fee associated with that, the landlord has to waive that late fee because the state isn't authorized to pay fees like that, and we have to make sure the tenant can stay on the property. It's a one-time subsidy for up to the maximum of these 3 months. So this isn't something that even if we get more money, we couldn't give additional months rent coverage to the same person.
David, can I interrupt? Your graphics, the words, and some of them are important, are getting cut off. Is there any way you can take out that block that you're hovering over? There we go.
Yeah, let me
Or
just
take it out.
I don't need to see you all. There we go. Is that better?
Oh, it's almost gone. Yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
And I guess the last point on this slide was that we're going to recertify income of households before the 3rd month. So at the application period, we're going to be checking on their income situation, and then we'll check again before the last month's rent is paid. In case their income has gone up, they've gone back to work, something like that, and we can save money for another household that needs it. Just for you to get an idea of what those household incomes are, we're looking at the max for a 4-person household is $86,500 a year. And then for those first few days, we're going to prioritizing households that are under 60%. And for a 4-person household, that's $51,350 a year. One of the things I'm really happy about with the way this program has set up, that it's really become a one-stop shop at INHS. We've got the county's money going through INHS to cover county residents who live outside the city of Ithaca. We've worked with the IURA and the city. They got CDBG money, $190,000 that will go to cover rent for city of Ithaca residents. And INHS is also reprogramming home funds that they had received directly that will cover residents in Schuyler County, Seneca County, and Tioga counties. So all of this is going to be completely seamless from the applicant's perspective. Anyone who hears about the program can go to INHS's website or contact them by phone to get a paper application. They'll fill out the same application, even though different programs have different requirements that INHS is going to have to follow. From an applicant's perspective, they just have a simple 2-page form and some paperwork that they'll fill out.
Hey, David, just to clarify for the public, I just want to make sure that people understand that the CDBG funding from the county is not excluding the city for any reason other than it can't actually be used for it because of its own entitlement community.
Right. So for anyone who doesn't understand that, the city gets money directly from the federal government that's based on their demographics. The rest of the area competes for money that's distributed by the state. So the county won this money from the state. The city gets the money automatically from the federal government, and they are both not allowed to overlap in what they cover. So we're starting to get the word out about the documents that applicants will need. There's an application form that will soon be available online, and people can call to get it from INHS or pick it up outside INHS. They'll need a copy of their current lease that covers the months that they're trying to get covered through this program. 2 months bank and investment account statements so that we can see their financial situation, and proof of income loss due to COVID-19. So this could be either unemployment or a letter from their work about having hours cut, those kinds of things. We've worked up a marketing strategy with INHS. This is going to roll out next week. So Tompkins County advertising is starting on June 1st for applications that will be accepted starting June 15th. We wanted to make sure that we had this good period of time to really get the word out, because we know in Tompkins County, not everyone is connected through to the internet and social media, and it can take a little more time to get through to people who don't have access to those at home, especially in rural parts of the county. So there's a multiple pronged strategy. There will be print ads in all the major newspapers. There'll be a 30-second radio spot. We're getting this on, of course, the INHS website, but also the county's website and the city's website, and social media accounts. And hopefully we can enlist you all to share that information on your social media accounts and in your contact with the communities. We're working with service providers, including doing a Zoom training with them on this program. I've been setting up with school lunch programs to have an actual paper flyer go out in the lunches that they're delivering to people's houses. We don't have them all signed on yet, but we're working on that. We're coordinating with the interfaith community through the chaplain at CMC to spread the word into faith communities. And we also really want to leverage all of our local officials and, of course, legislators to help spread the word about this program. INHS has put together a nice flyer and also their print ad that we can provide there in draft form here, but I wanted to kind of get that on your, get your eyes on it. And since we have me and Delia here, we can also take your questions about the program.
Martha has a question.
Yeah, David, this sounds great. Hi, Delia. How are you? This sounds great. On the income qualification, what if someone's getting unemployment now, or there are lots of people who've applied for unemployment, they haven't gotten any money yet. Then there's a category of people who might be getting money. So does that figure into their income, and would that maybe bump somebody off the program? Especially if they're actually getting the income.
Delia, I see your lips moving, but I don't hear you. So I'll attempt to answer the question badly, and then Delia will correct me. The plan is that unemployment income will be counted. They are going to be annualizing the additional supplemental unemployment, the $600 a week that people are getting. to consider that in the context of the year, because we know it's not going to continue for the whole year. So they're going to annualize that for the months that we expect it to be there. And INHS will be estimating the unemployment that people will be getting otherwise. No.
Delia, you're on mute still? Yep.
It sounds like we're having audio issues there, but Martha, for someone who hasn't yet received any unemployment, their income.
Wait. David,
there's Delia.
Is there?
Hi, Delia. Welcome.
Thanks, guys. So the guidance we've gotten from New York State is exactly what David said about unemployment. We will multiply the $600 a week must be counted, but we'll multiply it times the number of weeks until July 31st, or if that end date for those supplemental 600 to get extended, then we will handle it, you know, whatever the end date is. So we're not gonna be anticipating that $600 a week is $32,000. So I think it's not gonna bump, Martha, as many people over as you were concerned about with the other unemployment. If they haven't gotten it and they have no number for us to use, then they'll just sign an affidavit and say that.
Okay. And thank you. And just 211, you've got lots of bases covered on the marketing, and it's great. So I hope 211 will also get that information.
Oh, yeah. Yep. We have screening questions out there. So I'll be working with Nicole from 211 to make sure that what we're giving them is sufficient for what they want to, you know, screen for over the phone.
Great. Thanks a million.
Yeah, no problem.
I'm sorry. No, Delia, did you have another comment?
No.
Henry, did you have a question?
Yes, I did. So for the, if the program's oversubscribed, is it first come, first serve?
So it's going to be slightly complicated because that's how it always is. We are going to have a quote unquote on wait list date. So if someone doesn't have the internet and they reach out, then their on wait list date will be the date of the phone call. We'll mail them out information, and then we will process the applications in that order. We are going to serve them on a first eligible, first served basis. So we'll have the 2-week marketing period where we're not taking applications. And then we'll begin to take applications on the 15th. When we determine somebody is eligible, then we'll basically reserve the funds for them for a period of 4 weeks. We're going to be working with their landlord to get program agreements signed. For the county's money, we are going to be required to get documentation of no code violations on the property, either by a FOIA or by just driving by there. The New York State is being decently, they've been really flexible about actually making this program usable, which is great. So we didn't want to penalize the tenant for if their landlord's out of town and not communicating or something. So as soon as we see the tenant is ready, they will have funds reserved or eligible. They will have funds reserved for them, and then we'll start working with the landlord and on the code process to get that through, and we'll have a 4-week window for that to happen. So it's kind of a 2-step process. For folks who have the internet, then their on waitlist date will be the date they actually get the forms back to us. And so that's hopefully going to address the discrepancy between folks who don't have the internet, or try to mediate the discrepancy between folks who don't have the internet and those who can, you know, upload everything easily.
How much do you expect the average rent to be? I mean, how many people are you planning to help with these funds?
About 150 with these funds. with the
Okay.
county's funds. And then we have an additional 50 households from the city, 21 in Tompkins County from the home funds we currently have allotted, and 27 in Seneca Schuyler.
Okay, thanks.
Henry, did you have another question?
Nope, that's it.
Just a quick follow-up on Henry's for clarification, and then a question from Annie. Two things, but it's in this vein. One, if someone gets mailed an application, then it is when you receive it back. I guess my concern is difficulty in getting it back to you. And if there's any support or they can reach out, or is one piece. And are people eligible if they are currently homeless? And then how would you get information to them if they are eligible?
So we will have the packets available for pickup on our porch. If somebody doesn't have a mailing address and they can make it to our porch, that'll be possible. We're contacting, all of the homeless service providers and social workers. We're going to be working with DSS. The conversations we've had with David and Megan and the folks at the IURA are basically, if we can get them funds from DSS, then we will let them get that funding and not ours. And so we have a process for referrals with DSS. When we mail out the packets, we'll mail them with a stamped returned envelope. So if folks have an address, they should be able to just pop that back in their mailbox.
Great.
The way that we have the website is, I understand it may be difficult for folks. We are going to need a lease. So that's going to be the barrier for homeless folks. But with the funding that INHS is repurposing for home, we can help with security deposits. So if somebody's getting help from DSS and they don't have enough money for a security deposit, we will kind of fill that gap. And that's something we're prepared to collaborate with Catholic Charities on. Their funding is pretty limited. New York State is the conduit for that home fund as well. And they said it's fine if we layer that. So if they can give, $500 and we can give $1,500, we might be able to get somebody into a house that, as long as they have that lease signed. So that's going to mean, mostly I am assuming that folks aren't going to sign a lease unless they think they have a way to pay for it. So it's not really targeting homeless folks.
Great. Annie has a question, and then Megan has a comment. Unless, Megan, you wanted to respond to that directly? Okay.
Thank you, David and Delia, for this presentation and for working on this program. It's really great. It's a lot more money than I thought it was going to be. So I'm really happy about this. So one thing I know this is not all the information until you actually get it more detailed. But if you could send the slides, I'd appreciate that to us. And so I'm just going over the slides that I tried to take pictures of with my phone. So it looks like 10 days that the people in the 60 AMI bracket are going to have to apply. So they're going to have a lead time. And then after the 10 days, if there's money left, then people in the 80% AMI bracket can apply. Is that correct?
Yeah,
That's correct. And actually they can apply all along, but they'll just be put on a wait list that will be opened after the 10th day. So if someone's between 60 and 80 and they want to apply during the first 10 days, they can. They'll just be waitlisted until that time.
Okay. And it sounds like as far as if we wanted to send people, in advance, if we want to start, because I'd like to start talking to municipalities and people about this, we could tell them for sure it'll be on the county and the INHS website.
Yep. And that's all supposed to roll out next Monday.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Megan?
Yeah, in addition to thanking David and Delia and all the INHS crew, this has been very complicated to figure out very quickly in coordination with the state. And the IRA staff has been great so that we can really have a truly countywide program. But also DSS has helped us throughout because all of this different there are so many different types of housing assistance, and we really want to make sure that we're helping fill holes where there are in the ways that the state's allowing us to do that. So that there's been a lot of coordination so that if people approach, finding housing assistance through different agencies, whether they're contacting DSS, INHS, TC Action, Catholic Charities, others, that everybody's actually behind the scenes putting a lot of effort into coordinating with one another so that we understand questions to ask to help direct people to where they're going to kind of get the most assistance for their particular circumstances, because all these different programs have very different eligibility requirements and complexities to them. But we want it to be easy to the person that's, struggling with their housing so that it's the lowest barrier possible to them while we kind of have a fantastic community-wide crew figuring things out behind the scenes. And I think we all wanted to roll this as fast as we can. I will say we were the first in the state to even get authorization from New York State. And they've actually been directing other communities our way because others are trying to figure this out throughout the state and realizing, when you start to peel the onion, how many layers there are to trying to be as, fair and helpful and impactful as we can be with the resources that we've got. So there are a whole lot of people out there to thank, and I hope they all know that I think the whole community appreciates what great resources we have and how many people care about this.
Thank you so much, Megan, for all of that information and for giving us the whole list. I think it's important that it is public information, that everybody knows who has been involved in this and making sure this program has been put together. It's very outside the box and creative. So thank you so much. And I do see that we have 2 more questions. We are behind schedule by 5 minutes. We have 3 more presentations, resolutions, people coming in who haven't talked to us about issues before, like this year, including transportation. So is it something we can move on from? Or Henry, Annie, do you feel like they absolutely are burning questions you want to ask right now?
No, it's not a burning question.
Great. Thank you so much. All right, then I want to move on to tourism, which is another very important topic, and I do want to give it its due. And David, thank you so much. Delia, you've been amazing. Thank you for your work. So thankful. And that will bring Nick to the forefront. Bye, Delia.
Bye, everybody.
All right. Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
So yeah, we have 2 items on the agenda for tourism this morning. The first, well, actually, I guess it's sort of 3, but the first is just our bi-monthly update. You'll see that attached as a PDF here to the agenda. The real highlight here is, the impact of the ongoing pandemic on our budget, and our that is summarized in a separate memo as well. Included in that as an attachment is the CVB annual report for 2019, and Peggy is here on the call. This was presented to the STPB at our meeting last week on the 20th. So we include it here for reference. I'm not sure in terms of timing how much time we have to cover that. Anna, can you, so the agenda I'm looking at doesn't have times on it.
Yeah, we're gonna shift to make sure you guys have the time that you need. I know Peggy wanted 20 minutes, which is actually shorter than the presentation that she gave at STPB. So we're gonna try to accommodate that.
Okay, well, let's just, I think Peggy, if you're ready for it, I think it's, I'm ready to jump into that right now, so.
I am ready. I would just request if I could share my screen.
And while you're working on that, I see that Martha has a question about the budget presentation or the budget report, I think. Martha, yeah?
Yeah, real quickly, the Nick's packet, page 16, Nick's memo on the program update. The reminder that the a reminder, I didn't know that the quarter is for room tax from December through February. So that came up on our conversation earlier, but boy, that makes it even more, what's the word, irritating that hotels withheld that money, because December to February was before there were any impacts from the virus. So I'm glad to have that information.
Yeah, that's accurate. Yeah, the due date for that first quarter taxes was March 20th. So, just, right in the middle of all of the flurry of executive orders, which were sort of rapidly transforming tourism in that industry and every industry in the state. Yeah, I think that was definitely a factor at play as in the tax delinquency issue.
Thanks, Nick.
Thank you, Nick. Welcome, Peggy.
Thank you. Are we ready to roll?
We are. Go for it.
Okay. Well, I appreciate your taking the time to hear about 2019. It does sound kind of crazy considering that it was 6 months ago practically now. And I appreciate you not wanting to have as much time. So if I can condense it shorter than 20 minutes, I will do my darndest. So I just wanted to remind everyone that while you see me frequently, there's a whole team that does amazing work on behalf of this county to drive the strategic goals for tourism. As I'd like to wander through each of those departments to share their successes. Okay. Just as a reminder, we are the official designated tourism promotion agency for this county. Tompkins County has a contract with us. Our mission is, as a division of the Tompkins Chamber, our mission is to foster sustainable economic growth through strategic advocacy, workforce development, destination marketing, and quality of life investments. So we've invested in our team. We've worked hard to get the right people in place to be able to serve this county better and to serve our industry better and to drive more economic development. And the thing that's really exciting is this, our team is being recognized by others in the industry, not just locally, but also on a national and international level. Sarah has presented to both the Pennsylvania Bus Association Marketplace as well as Travel Alliance Partners. And Jody was involved in a panel discussing our new Arrival to Departure Tourism Ambassador Training Program. And we like to operate based on data. And so last year, about mid-year, as you may recall, the visitor profile study, we got the updated results. And we've learned some really important things. And the things that we were able to learn at the time could have been viewed as weaknesses, but now as we're going into recovery, they are really critical. We've learned that 76% of those surveyed are repeat visitors, and their primary reason for visiting us is outdoor recreation. The majority of those folks are traveling with families, and they are using their past experience to plan their next trip. That back in the summer was not good news, but now it's really helpful news, and you'll hear about that later on. So let's talk a little bit about marketing. The marketing team, they have used some strategies to connect with visitors throughout the entire phase of the travel planning process, from inspiration to journey, to booking, and as well as while the visitors are experiencing our community, so that we can transform those folks into influencers for return visits by themselves and also for new visits by their friends. What you see on the screen are the top messaging focus areas that we deployed for 2019. One of the other items that came up from the visitor profile study was that more than 20% self-identified as LGBTQ, And so that created a new opportunity for us, and we definitely saw some positive results in 2019. So let's talk about some of those tactics. How did we expand the reach for our community? We want to speak to each audience in the channels in which they prefer to get their information. Through social, which is really important, but also we still believe in the power of face-to-face meetings with visitors. And we identified some select consumer shows in 2019 in otherwise expensive markets that we would not be able to afford to buy media. And we were able to successfully make impressions in Philadelphia as well as at 2 events in New York City. The web traffic, one of the things I always like to remind you is, generally speaking, web traffic is decreasing, especially in the tourism industry, because Google tends to pull our content out as trusted sources and then put them into sidebars. So while other communities are seeing a decrease in their web traffic, we have continued to see an increase in both our organic and paid. About 71% of the sessions to our website is from organic traffic, and also 79, almost 80% of the traffic to our website is from new visitors. This next slide shows side by side the work of 2 of our departments. So the map on the left shows the top 10 states where visitors are coming from when they come to our website to learn about our community. And the state map that's on the right is actually the top 10 states that people are coming from to enter our visitor centers and who we're helping. So basically, this shows very easily that the people who we are messaging to and inviting and are exposed to our marketing are actually coming and spending time in market. The other thing to point out is that on the web traffic, we get significant traffic from the Metro New York City area, approximately 36,000 new users over the course of 12 months. And you'll also note that 60% of the visitor center traffic is from outside of New York State. We have invested in paid media, and we like to test the waters with new things and different things. And a couple of those examples are Atlas Obscura. During this campaign, it was only a 3-month campaign in the second quarter of 2019, but we're still seeing rippling effects as a result. It's over 588,000 impressions, and they just went back during our New York pause phase to Gordlandia to check in with Graham and do another engagement with her. So again, that small investment way back in 2019 really is continuing to pay off for us. Heritage Radio Podcast Network is another new media that we chose to invest in, and our campaign produced more than 1 million impressions. And because podcasts are still available, they are still expanding and working for us. Let's talk about agri-culinary. As you know, that's one of the primary focuses for the tourism program. We were excited to be able to grant out all 10 of our micro grants, $500 give or take grants apiece. And what you see on the screen are two examples of the micro grant funded programs. In addition, we definitely were talking about cider in 2019. We received the Market New York grant from Empire State Development, and this was a program in partnership with the DIA. And we were able to work on awareness, education, and visitation around Ithaca's craft cider scene. And on our Visit Ithaca website, cider-related traffic increased 88% over last year. Oh, sorry. Technical difficulties, my apologies. Continuing with the cider conversation, we had really wanted to get the word out. And so we were interested in hosting events. And two of the events that we wanted to highlight is the Finger Lakes Cider Week. The Finger Lakes Cider Week, it's a region-wide festival. There was 36 events and 30 of them happened in Tompkins County. So it really shows how Ithaca and Tompkins County is the epicenter of the Finger Lakes cider activity. And one of our favorite stories is during that week, we met a retired couple from Pennsylvania who told us that they specifically traveled to and stayed here for the Finger Lakes Cider Week. The other event, oh, I'm sorry, I am jumping the gun here. The other event that we hosted is on the right, and that was the Ithaca Craft Beverage Festival. We traveled down to New York City with 20 of our partners to take over Pier 17 in Manhattan. We had exposure to over 10,000 attendees at the event, and this is where we launched our partnership with Our Bus. We did a collaboration that we created a discount code specific for trips from New York City to Ithaca on Our Bus, and it was branded the Cider Bus Express. And we were able to track 104 trips from New York City to Ithaca using this promo code. We also continued our storytelling. I mentioned about Heritage Radio podcasts. We connected with another platform called Cider Chat, and that's a podcast that is frequented by cider producers, professionals, aficionados, and folks who are new to cider. We produced 7 episodes, and one is specifically focused on the community as a destination. And we've already seen over 10,000 downloads of these episodes. And the fact that they are there continuously, they are still having an impact for our destination. Of course, we continue to pitch story ideas in traditional media. And here are some of the top tier media coverage that our cider stories received. The Forbes article named Finger Lakes Cider Week as one of 3 exceptional getaways for Northeast travelers. And we were called out by name, specifically our Cider Express bus. And then also we hosted a writer from Matador who wrote the article, "The best place to drink cider this fall is in Ithaca, New York." So we're really excited about the media coverage we received. But beyond cider, our destination received 140 notable articles that included Ithaca and Tompkins County area partners, resulting from our media pitching efforts. We hosted 22 vetted media and influencers, and that work resulted in over 1.3 billion impressions. These are just some of the titles. If you look in the packet, you'll see a complete list really of the additional top tier media placements that we had. Our sales team, despite being down 50% for the majority of the year, the sales team really rocked it. They had 140 appointments with group and international tour and travel planners, 47 appointments, and more than 120 engagements with Capital District meeting planners. And the team collectively produced 99 leads for distribution. And that was for over 587,000 potential room nights and an economic impact potentially of 1.4 million indefinite bookings if all of those leads turn definite. We continue to grow the domestic market. We're also focusing on growing our international market. And by doing so, we promoted 3 China Ready webinars that was hosted by I Love New York. And we also hosted an Australian travel trade group, and that's who you see pictured in these photos. And this was in partnership with I Love New York. We also hosted New World Travel, who is a receptive tour operator, and they sell primarily to agents in Germany. So we're continuing to build those relationships to drive new visitation here to the county. Our meeting side, we had 2 sales missions to Albany area meeting planners. We also hosted for the second year in a row a very successful client event at the Fort Orange Club in Albany, showcasing our wonderful meeting venues and key experiences with partners like Ithaca Beer Company and Experience the Finger Lakes, where Laura did cider, wine, and beer pairings. We exhibited at the Empire State Society of Association Executives trade show in, this is says Saratoga Springs, but I apologize. That's actually in Albany at the new Albany Convention Center, where we met with 120 plus partners. And we also co-sponsored an event with those meeting planners in partnership with 10 other destination marketing organizations from upstate New York. And while the visitor experience department, they are the folks you see most often because all of our marketing and sales happens outside of the area. Once the visitor experience takes over, it all happens here in town. We're very excited. This picture here is from the team leading a FAM tour for our new A to D champions. And it was a very rainy day in June. And so definitely the falls experience was spectacular that day. As I mentioned, that was the A to D champion FAM tour. We launched this new training program, and in 2019, our goal was to train 100 people, and we exceeded that goal by training 148 visitor champions from 38 different organizations. And I can share that with you later if we had more time. So let's take a look at the numbers. Our phone calls were up, travel guide requests were up, and our offsite events were up. And that's a direct result of our monthly meetings with all 3 of our local colleges to meet the strategic plan town gown goals. You'll note that the downtown visitor center and chat numbers are not up, but as you recall, we moved in 2019 to the Tompkins Center for History and Culture. We were closed for a while, and we didn't have signs for quite a long time. Our top 5 domestic and international feeder markets are also listed for your view. One of the other big events that the visitor experience team produces is the annual Winter Recess Festival. This takes place in February when our community needs the business the most. And we're really excited that the 2019 Winter Recess Festival, we hosted over 4,000 attendees from 12 different states. And 71 of those attendees reported they had visited a new business in 2019. We have a raffle for tracking sales receipts, and we tracked a minimum of $175,000 of sales during that winter recess period. We've also heard loud and clear from our our partners that they're looking for more training. And so we responded throughout the year, and here's a list of all of the trainings and programs that we offered in addition to our one-on-one meetings. In the upper right photo, we were honored to nominate Amanda Overbaugh of the Econo Lodge. She received the Stars of the Industry Award from the New York State Hospitality and Tourism Association for hotel managers with 150 rooms or less. And beyond hospitality, Amanda literally saved someone's life at her hotel, and we thought it was important for our industry to know that. So that was a very brief run through 12 months in a matter of minutes. And now I wanted to just touch base on what 2020's pivot looks like. As soon as we went on pause, we went into phase 1. And I just want to remind you all that the phases that you see here on the screen do not necessarily match the governor's phases. This is just the way that we will be re-engaging with people coming to our community. So phase 1, we continue our brand awareness and travel inspiration. We continue to pitch story ideas to media, talking about virtual tastings, waterfalls, adorable goats, etc. Using the tag, remember the places where you feel calm. In phase 2, when we begin to open up, we re-engage with our locals and regional travelers. We'd target a 60 to 90 mile radius drive market while still inspiring alumni and repeat visitors. And the focus and communications is on CDC health and safety standards, reminding people in our community how they can visit safely by wearing masks and keeping a 6-foot social distance from other parties, and that access to nature can be done social distancing. Phase 3 is when things open up more and we re-engage with our domestic markets. Once all of New York State is again open and available for travel, we will continue to market to the broader audience, but still shifting away from a larger event focus. And then ultimately is phase 4, and that is definitely well into our future. And that's when we literally engage everyone, including our international visitors. So I know I've thrown a lot of you at once, and I'm delighted to answer any questions.
Thank you so much, Peggy. Sorry, we are still in our presentation view. Great. We are out now and I can see hands being raised. Thank you so much for all that information. I know it's very strange to do this presentation pre the current pandemic that we're in, because we know the situation is so profoundly different. But I do think it's really important for all of us to know where we were before this pandemic hit, what infrastructure we had in place, what performances were happening in the tourism world. So thank you for this information. I am going to move to hands and questions. I had Annie Corman and then Martha.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Peggy, for the presentation and the update. So as far as, I have 2 questions. As far as promoting people wearing masks, is it possible to put some pictures up or some wording, and maybe it's already there on your website to encourage people, you know, pictures around the area of people like at Taconic Falls or something wearing masks?
Actually, Annie, great question and very well timed. Aaron, I just got a text from Aaron. I should back up. We are also on shared work. And so even though we have even more to do now, trying to squeeze it into less time, we're not able to do as much as quickly as we'd like to. So I do want to just preface that. But I just got a text from Aaron, and the re-skinning and our COVID page does include images of people with face masks enjoying the community. We've realized, because our phases don't match anywhere else, not even our neighboring states. So we needed to explain what phase 1 in our community is. We are proactively including an insert as people are requesting travel guides from us that lists, this is how you experience our community safely, and just reinforcing that because of the behavior of our local residents, our community has been fairly safe and healthy, and we want you to adapt our culture when you come to visit safely. So we're definitely pushing that out, as well as we're working in partnership with the Chamber, DIA, the city, TCAD, to develop a little bit more user-friendly and fun way to communicate wearing masks in our community. I think people are doing they're trying very hard to get that stuff out. I saw a really cute video, but if we're not using the messaging in the way for people to accept it, they're going to ignore it. So that's also in the works.
Okay, thank you. I know it's always easy to give suggestions, so I say this with a huge grain of salt. But if you have some competition or people, submitting, some way or some request for people to submit photos, that way you guys don't have to do it. Kind of like a contest. And that also kind of rolls into the next question, with next month being LGBTQ plus Pride Month, you might consider doing something similar where it's going to be hard to do outreach. We can't have any public events. People, you could ask people, for Pride to, people that want to submit their pictures of them visiting the area or what they're going to do when travel is easier. And then the last thing is, do you guys have a Pride flag a rainbow flag to put up for Pride Month? Do you guys usually do that at the chamber?
We don't. We only have an American flag. I literally had to stop and think and look at our building to remember, because I was like, oh, we don't have a flagpole. Then I realized, yes, we actually bring it in and out every day. So we don't have a Pride flag. We'd be delighted to fly one if you can source one for us.
Sure, I can get one from Finger Lakes Pulse because I'm on the board there.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
Contact you about dropping it off. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's wonderful. Martha?
Thank you, boy, Peggy, way to throw wistful, wonderful photographs at us. That video for Mass, was that Close to Home Productions? Sue Pearl she did a great video on Mass.
Well, that was the one I was just referencing, and okay. Sue did a beautiful job, and we don't want to disrespect what she has produced, but we also needed to share some words, some copy in there too. So it is something that we are doing in-house predominantly to make it happen.
Okay. Quickly, I know we're way out of time, but Conference Center update. Could you give us a thumbnail on what's happening with the Conference Center?
Sure. Yes, and you'll notice I didn't have time to talk about that in the report. The Conference Center, the City Council met, I believe it was last week, to vote at this point to move forward with enabling legislation for a 5% occupancy tax in the city. So once that was actually in, I think, executive committee, it will then go to the full council for approval and then sent to New York State. We have contracted with Sarah Hayes of Hayes Strategies to act as the owner's representative to shepherd the process. She's doing a great job interfacing with Vecino, the developer, and the community. We have an RFP for kitchen design right now. We also have an RFP for an operator that is being fine-tuned and getting ready to be sent out. So we're still moving full steam ahead, recognizing that so many people who've lost their jobs, this is an economic development project that can really help our community recover. And we're especially keeping all eyes open to see if any funding comes up for those shovel-ready projects on a federal or state level.
So Vecino hasn't gotten cold feet or anything. They're moving ahead.
Full steam ahead.
That's great. Glad to hear. Thank you.
Quick follow-up on that, Peggy, before we move on. The discussion on the floor was that there was going to be in the contracts a living wage requirement, if I recall. Has that been still discussed?
Well, that would be discussed with the selected contractors. So, yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. So thank you so much, Peggy. Thank you for cramming this in. This was a tremendous amount of work. I know you had like 3 times the amount of time in your STPB last week. So really thank you. And I know we have a lot, but if anybody has any questions, I know Peggy has been available for questions that I have had. People can get questions to me. I'm happy to hand them on to Peggy. You've been really wonderful and responsive. So thank you so much. Moving on to TCAD, I see Heather is here. We have a quick report and a resolution. Hi, Heather.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Anna, don't we have a resolution on the tourism program budget adjustment?
We haven't done that one yet. Oh, I apologize, Heather. We have not done that resolution, and thank you, Martha. Conversations seem to take center stage. We have a resolution 2020 tourism program budget adjustment. That's COVID-19 ID 9337. Can I have someone move that? Martha, someone seconds it. Mike, great. Did anybody have any questions of Nick on this? If not, I will do a roll call. Martha?
Yes, yes.
Thank you. Annie? I see a yes. I think I saw yes. Okay. Mike?
Yes.
Henry?
Yes.
Great. That is unanimous. Thank you so much, Martha. Thank you, Nick. I appreciate it. All of your work, as always. Now, Heather, we have your report and a very long resolution. So which would you like to start with?
I'll start with my report. Every month, for informational purposes, we provide a report on TCAD's activities. And then this year, we decided in conjunction with Anna Kellis, we talked about TCAD's role on this committee, and every other month, we would give a longer, sort of deeper dive presentation on a hot topic or something that we might be up to. So this month I've just provided my report. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have questions, and then I'll just move on to the resolution for the Ithaca College refinance.
Does anybody have any questions about the report? Martha? Okay, no comment. Thank you. It's very thorough, so I very much appreciate it. I know some of this you've been able to work on, some of it you haven't, some has been delayed. Thank you for those updates. I know we're all starting to get back on track. It's a little surreal. I know next week you will be bringing more in-depth presentations. So for the interest of time, and we have a TCAP presentation to go as well, I'd love to move to your resolution. And I will try and get the whole thing in, maybe taking a few breaths while I say this title, but this is the Resolution of the Tompkins County Legislature as the elected legislative body of Tompkins County, New York, in accordance with Section 147F of the Internal Revenue Code of 1986, as amended the code, approving the issuance by the Tompkins County Development Corporation of up to 36 million aggregate principal amount tax-exempt revenue bonds, Ithaca College Project, Series 2020. Can I have someone move that? Annie moves, Martha seconds. Heather, you want to translate that to English for all of us?
Absolutely. The Tompkins County Development Corporation provides conduit access to the tax-exempt bond market for not-for-profit projects. What that really means is we're a conduit to low-cost financing. Ithaca College has applied to refinance up to $36 million of existing tax-exempt bond debt. What this does for them is it extends the term of that debt and locks in a fixed low interest rate. So it saves them money over the short and long term by refinancing this bond. The federal requirements are that the legislature does need to approve the development corporation acting as conduit to this bond market for this project.
And this is standard protocol for organizations and companies to refinance, consolidate, right?
It is. The interest rates are so low right now that it over the short term even, it saves them significant amounts of revenue.
Great, thank you. Did anyone else have any questions? All right. Long title, no serious questions. So that's good. I guess everybody understands it all from soup to nuts. Mike? I think that was a good, I saw a smile.
No, that was good. Yeah, we're good. I just thought it.
Okay. Martha?
Yes.
Annie?
Yes.
Henry?
Yes.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Heather. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, so moving on, we have a report for the Tompkins County Area Transit, but I am not seeing Scott here. Actually, Kathy, have you heard anything from him or?
No, I have not. I do believe he was sent an invite to the meeting.
Yes, he was actually quite looking forward to it. But we can always postpone this until next month. Because I know I had a lot of questions actually about TCAT in general, interest in their report. So I will reach out to him. Last week he was ready to go. So I'm not sure what happened. Maybe there was something. But I see, Martha, you had your hand. Were you hoping to ask something specifically related to TCAT?
Yeah, thanks, Anna. And I've got TCAT on the agenda for the Tiger Committee next Wednesday, related to the transportation, the reauthorization of the federal transportation bill expires September 30th. And I guess that there's a lot of activity right now. So I was going to ask Scott about that. I guess a few of us are on that committee. I hope we'll get him there next week. But Deborah's also planning to have some information for us. So that's not, this is operational stuff in his report, but that was a separate topic.
Yeah, I texted him. I don't know where he is. So that being the last thing on the agenda, I have liaison assignments, and that is the only other thing that I have on the agenda. So unfortunately, Peggy rushed for nothing. And I was psyched I was going to get us out on time. And now I have gotten us out early, it seems. But I would, if anybody has any liaison appointment reports. Martha?
I wonder if Heather's still on. I'll go back to the questions I was holding off on.
She is not, unfortunately.
Oh, okay. All right. I'll email her. Thanks.
That would be great. If you could CC the committee if they're relevant and information we'd all want to hear, that would be wonderful. I'm sure your questions will be excellent. Well, barring any new information that people want to share, I'd like to call a motion to adjourn. Can I have someone move that? Martha moves. Mike seconds. I got a hand, it looks like, from Henry on that one. Mike seconds it. Now I'm going to do a quick roll call. Mike, thumbs up. Martha?
Yep.
Annie?
Yes.
And Henry?
Yes.
Wonderful, everyone. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much. Kathy, Greg, Megan, Katie, everybody, thank you so much. Lauren, have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.